book of Isaiah, chapter 1 and verse 3. The ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib. But Israel doth not know, my people doth not consider.
So, in the Bible, it identifies an ox and an ass, who knows their owner, knows their master's crib. But God says his people don't know, meaning they don't know who they are, which is relevant for yourselves as it was for us. We would have many of the same answers. African, then they say, well, what tribe? No. We would know it's always a guessing game for us. Well, I want to open up with the identifying God's chosen people. All right, we're going to open up with that. Many times we have thoughts about our various nationalities. For example, I know you're looking at the flyers. However, what would you say your racial origin is?
I would say that my racial origin is that of African.
Okay, African. Young lady, what would you say? African? And yourself? What would you say? Huh? Indian. Okay. Young lady, what would you say? You don't know. Okay. What would you say? Ethiopian, Nigerian. And you? African? African and Caribbean. Now, y'all know that those of you that claim African descent, you know there are about 3,000 African tribes. So then it gets a little more complicated. So, okay, what tribe?
I would say I'm from the tribe of the...
You said you would say.
The Uba or Igbo.
So that means you don't know.
But I don't know, of course.
Young lady, you don't know. Who else said African? You said African? You don't know. You said it. Now, you mentioned Ethiopian and Nigeria. Okay, we're going to come back to that. That's good. And you have no idea. Very good. I want to open up 1 and 3. I'm sorry. Isaiah 1 verse 3. And then I'm going to show you some illustrations. Isaiah chapter 1 verse 3.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 1 and verse 3. The ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib. But Israel doth not know, my people doth not consider.
So, in the Bible, it identifies an ox and an ass, who knows their owner, knows their master's crib. But God says his people don't know, meaning they don't know who they are, which is relevant for yourselves as it was for us. We would have many of the same answers. African, then they say, well, what tribe? I don't know. We would always, it was always a guessing game for us. So now, we've always been taught, I know coming up when I was into Afrocentricity, it was always said that the Bible is the white man's book. Have you ever heard that? The Bible was written by the white man? So I always heard that. So after I ran from Christianity, I went into Afrocentricity, and I hated the Bible. Didn't want to hear nothing about it. And then the brothers came and they started to show me various things and opened my eyes to look at it with new eyes. How many of y'all saw the movie Birth of a Nation? Y'all saw that? One sister. Brother, you didn't see it? What's going on with our people? You sisters, make sure y'all see that movie. Very good movie. It shows you the origin of Christianity, how the white man used black Christian males to subdue the slaves mentally. And in the film, it shows you how Nat Turner started to see the Bible with new eyes and how it was not saying what the white Christians taught the slaves it was saying. This is the standpoint we're coming from, and this is the standpoint of what the Bible is about. The Bible is nothing with what you think it's saying. Of universal love, what else does it say? What else do they say? Universal love for everybody. The Bible's everybody's book. The laws are done away with. That's not biblical at all. Many of us, we quote the Bible, certain passages, and in the movie Nat Turner mentions, he says, they taught me to quote and read only certain passages. He said, but in my alone time, I was able to read more on my own, and I saw things they didn't want me to see. So, let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 28. Let's go to the first slide, please. I have the scriptures on the screen for you so y'all can see for yourselves exactly what the Bible is saying. And I'll have Captain Isaac, can you come over here for us, to the center? I'll have Captain Isaac read it aloud.
Deuteronomy 28 verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
So now we want to find out who is Moses talking to, because in church there's always talking to everybody. Everybody didn't come out of Egypt with Moses. Get chapter 27, verse 1. See what's talking.
Chapter 27, verse 1. And Moses with the elders of Israel commanded the people, saying, keep all the commandments which I command you this day.
So now we have identified Moses is talking to who? Israel. Understand that? He's talking to Israel. So now what we're about to identify is who is Israel? Is it the Caucasians in Israel today? Or is it the blacks that went over here in slavery throughout the Caribbean, all places like that? Let's find out. Next slide, please. So we're going to identify the curses. Numbers verse 16, read that.
Verse 16. Cursed shalt thou be in the city.
So the one curse is that the Israelites would be cursed in whatever city they came into. So remember, the Israelites had just came out of Egypt, which is in Africa, northeast Africa. They just came out of Egypt from under Pharaoh, Ramses II. They're in the wilderness. Now Moses is telling the Israelites, if you break God's commandments, these are some of the curses that will come upon you and overtake you. One curse is that you shall be cursed in the city. Read on.
And cursed shalt thou be in the field.
Next slide. And cursed shalt thou be in the field. So here in the city, like for example, in New York City, you have the famous Wall Street. I'm sure you've all heard of Wall Street, where you had a huge slave market located where Wall Street reached the East River. It was established in 1711 as a place where enslaved blacks and Native American Indians could be hired or purchased. A lot of people don't realize Native American Indians were sold as slaves right along with blacks. Next slide, please. Still dealing with the city. Thousands of blacks, Latinos, Native American Indians were held in bondage and sold in the early colonial settlements of New France, Quebec, New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia, and Upper Canada. Next slide. This part here, cursed shall thou be in the field. As you see in the illustration, you have the slaves working in the cotton fields. Next slide. Still dealing with the field, they forced us in slavery to work the sugarcane fields, the cotton fields, tobacco fields. Next slide. Verse 17 again.
Verse 17. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store.
Meaning your businesses. Next slide. Verse 18.
Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body and the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kind and the flocks of thy sheep.
Next slide. Verse 19.
Verse 19. Cursed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shalt thou be when thou goest out.
Meaning cursed shall you be when you're born. You were born not knowing who you are, and when you die, you would die not knowing who you are. That's a curse. When you go to many of the other colleges, many of the students know their history, their origin. It's only black colleges where there's always confusion. Sometimes we'd hand out paper and ask them to write down their racial origin, and you'll get at least 25 different answers. It's total confusion. Some people get to the point when they fill out job applications where it says white, Asian, non-black, black, and the other races would proudly mark their status or their origin, their racial origin. And black people are the only ones that go, well, I'll put, you refuse to do it. We don't want to sign what race we are, feeling it may hinder us from employment. Next slide. Verse 20.
Verse 20. The Lord shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, and rebuke in all that thou settest thine hand unto for to do, until thou be destroyed.
Meaning destroyed as a people, go ahead.
And until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doing.
Notice, Moses